but was very afraid for a long time of the web. So I turned to Perl and C programming, systems programming. But eventually, with Rails, got into web programming as well. So Prototype.js was a bit of a segue into JavaScript for me. Yeah, never was a pro, but that was my beginning. It was kind of like, okay, I started to grok it a bit at least. So that's where I'm coming from. And from there went to Node and Backbone on the client side, and eventually React, right? So which I kind of really dig, being a fan of the functional reactive programming paradigm and stuff. So that's a bit about me. So React hipster crowd, remember this JavaScript library? I mean, who knows? Maybe there is someone who doesn't know it. So. Okay, good. You don't want to know it, right? So, okay, got it. All right. No, it's good. Proper tool for the right job, right? So, anyone remember that library?
It never matched the API 100%.
It never matched the API 100%. That's true. So that's Septo.js for all the other ones who don't know that library. It's from my, actually it's not from my boss, kind of, where I got into Rails back then. It was Thomas Fuchs' initiative back then. That's an open source library that tried to be API compliant as best as possible towards jQuery. It had some certain attributes to it, most of which was its kind of small size. So that was its main selling point. Why am I bringing this up? Well, I have to get to that. So we're talking about 2010-ish. So that's the time when kind of like mobile started to really take off, right? So we've been right into the almost 2017. So that has been some while. I mean, seems kind of close ago, not too long ago for me. Anyway, so mobile huge, right? So still huge back then, starting to come up huge, and that's essentially why Thomas, I think, went for doing a jQuery clone, because he said like, okay, we've got this mobile thing coming up, and talking about, I don't know, is anyone familiar with the 8 fallacies of distributed computing? So one of those is that the network is reliable, right? So, which is not true, of course, still not true, unfortunately. So consistent network connections and bandwidth are scarce to this day. So that was one of the major selling points. You can see that. I don't know how, kind of like, what we are talking in kilobytes here, but it was significantly smaller. So we see to this day, actually, micro libraries in a way are still very important. If we don't want to just like use apps all day, they're kind of like native apps, but the web. So what were the design goals there? First of all, the entry point to Septo was for sure its familiar API. I mean, helping developers get to it and understand it quickly. I mean, it's a usability question. I think it was a really good idea. So that was the main selling proposition for developers in terms of usability. So if you use jQuery, you already know how to use Septo. Straight from the website. Second design guideline was its size, of course, as said before, like, again, network constraints. And also, must not forget modularity. Certainly can help with size, right? You just like pick the parts you really need. But it's also, in a way, it's also helping with compositioning and mental modeling of the code base. So jQuery was kind of unwieldy, and there's lots of, you don't want to know how much magic is in there and stuff. So it's kind of, if you get to a library that's much smaller, it's also interesting to look inside, to peek inside a bit, and that's maybe more welcoming, and to get a mental model of what you're actually using if you want to go there. So Thomas also built this little site around the whole concept, which is like micro.js, that's what it's called. Still around. You can search for libraries. So for example, here's jQuery. Chief, there's Septo. Like I said before, his own library in that regard. You can also search for React. I found some strange libraries I didn't even know and didn't research, unfortunately, what they were about. But there are some React results in there already. So that was a thing, and I think it's still very worthwhile. It's a micro libraries is something to aspire to, especially, as I said, in the mobile space. So with that comes trade-offs, right? So you can't have your cake and eat it too or something, right? So you can't have small size and have all the benefits with it. So what the trade-offs were here were kind of, at the time at least, were kind of like a material for funny, I don't know, fallouts between certain developers and stuff. It's just like, yeah, it's politics and stuff, but I think it was a trade-off worth going for in terms of that jQuery is not 100%, as Nick before said, like it's not 100% conforming to Septo is not 100% conforming to the jQuery coverage, and yeah, it's something in the mobile space. 2010, if you think about it, that was mostly iPhone, right? So Safari on iPhone. Why not optimize for that? I think that was what Thomas was thinking at the time. And so it probably didn't hurt that much. jQuery Mobile, I think, picked up stuff from Septo down the line and stuff, so it got much better. So it's also always good in terms of competition and stuff. So it's never, I think, bad that a competitor suddenly arises or something. It's good. It's really good, I think. So, but there have been other trends since 2010, which leads us to the Borg in a way. So, it's kind of funny. Sorry, I had to laugh about that. So, Google, yeah. So Google, it's funny in a way. Google, they literally called their cluster management system called Borg, the one serving nicely, like serving us well for, I don't know, like 15 years or 10 years or so. And yeah, out of that comes lots of ideas which over the last couple of years have been democratized, chiefly by a funny little company and tool called Docker, which maybe is familiar to also to some front-end developers. It's, yeah, Docker kind of like opened that whole thing even more so for democratization. It's a container solution for the ones who are not too familiar with it. And they were, it's a good effort in collaborative lateral thinking in a way, because it's just like, it wasn't that revolutionary, but picking the right ideas here and there, and with that creating kind of like the whole, I mean, helping this whole DevOps thing really take off. And with DevOps and Docker and containerization and Borg clones like Kubernetes, for example, that's the open source orchestration, container orchestration tool from Google. I don't know if they use it actually, kind of like eyeing for replacing Borg. I wouldn't know, but at least they're putting money in there, and it's a thing. It's a thing which leads us to microservices. So microservices are essentially these concepts that kind of got popular within Google mostly. So you got this bounded contexts, this small, at a certain point I think they even used really literal machines, just like small computers kind of in their cluster, which served content and applications and stuff, and were really agile with that, and also could scale horizontally really well and stuff. So that made a lot of sense back in the day, and still makes a lot of sense the bigger you get, so in the distributed system sense. So from the Borg spaceship, we get to a couple of Rubik's cubes of our own. So those are maybe, I don't know, this depends on where you're working or what are you working on. but the trend definitely, with all those tools and agility of those tools, we're getting to a point where we are, in a way, all becoming more or less small Googles of our own. So kind of like representing that. So with that in mind, it's time to to build our apps, I think. And I mean, it's kind of in the air anyways, like has been over the last couple of years to build our apps in that same way, kind of like from UI to backend, to really think about those bounded contexts, about this just like small microservices. And yeah, that leads us to Facebook, which is also a large distributed system, kind of popular one. You can argue about it, why that is the case and stuff, but it is what it is. It's okay. No, Facebook has value for sure. I like Facebook. I like Facebook. Yeah, it's also this. We shouldn't be living in bubbles and stuff. So actually, I opened up my Facebook account 2 weeks ago because our elections here. So didn't have a Facebook account for 6 years. Anyways, I'm putting that out. It has. So I'm trying to be less in my bubble. I think it helps with that. So coming back to the large distributed system part of Facebook, you got this web application and lots of components, lots of moving parts, right? I think one of their mantras is like move fast and break things and stuff. So it's just like probably lots of stuff going on. And within that context, there were some really cool people, which we all, I mean, coming back a bit of the history of React. I don't know if everyone here is familiar where it's actually coming from. Essentially, was a pretty fed up guy from the ads department within ads team within Facebook, and he was kind of annoyed by the messiness of handling JavaScript the way they used to do that, and also he was also a big fan of functional reactive programming. So in a way, he kind of like tried to come up with something more easily to reason about, which in a way just like led him to a very data-driven programmatic approach. So which to this day I think we're all fans. So that's why we're here, right? So all the good stuff that was coming through that. So here we are. I think that tells us something about, do we have another cycle here, kind of like, does history in a way repeat itself? So microservices and micro libraries, I think, are really a natural fit here. So if you think about like a really well-working application that has been built on Backbone and maybe, I don't know, like, so parts of that microservice-based application are some Backbone parts, and maybe there's some Angular stuff, whatever, and now you're getting the call. Somebody wants you to deliver some functionality in a bounded context, and then you can say like, okay, it's really interesting. I really would like to do that with React and not do Angular or something. I don't know. It's not everybody's cake. I haven't learned Angular yet, so I'm really happy that it seems like I don't have to learn it. So within that context, it makes really sense that you get something like Preact. So that's essentially what I want to talk about. Preact is it's right, so straight up from the website. It's a fast 3 kilobyte alternative to React with the same ES6 API. So that's 3 kilobytes, 3 kilobytes, versus north of 100 kilobytes or something for even optimized React proper. I'm not too sure. I've been dabbling around lots with closures.
I think it's 40.
Is it 40? Okay, but I don't know if I could pull that off though. I'm not too sure how much optimization.
Because this is also GC.
Okay.
So
still,
I think
that's
React
like we're talking
40,
10.
or even React plus React Root is something like 40 or 80. I don't remember that exactly.
Okay, but still, it's like 10%.
Still, it's a lot.
Yeah, in comparison, and talking about mobile and stuff like we talked before, it has value too if that is smaller, right? So if less is more and size is a constraint, smaller size within that scenario, just try to picture, that allows us to suddenly say like, okay, apart from creating another Insel solution, island solution within that company, I can introduce a small React-based front end plus backend, and yeah, bounded context within that context. So also thinking about this, I don't know, there's this trend called this progressive web apps trend, right? So maybe we get there, that finally be able to compete with native apps. It's also enabling in that regard. So if that helps us with that. So less is more. Design goals, kind of similar to Septo back then, as a micro library of sorts. Is its familiar API. I mean, that's probably a huge selling point. It's probably why you're still sitting here 9 o'clock in the evening. Could be something for you. So it's completely React conform API. You will be instantly productive, and you will be even be able to use Chrome DevTools, for example. So all your natural development flow will be supported here. I'm gonna go into, I mean, just like have a glance over that. That's a small component from the website. It's just like collecting stars asynchronously, like the GitHub fetching from the GitHub API and rendering that to a small kind of like how many stars the app has. But we will go into that. So those are two differences, for example, in terms of where I say like, okay, React API conform, so that you get your mental model still there, still good, all good, right? So, but there are some differences which could be nice as well, so bear with me. In terms of, for example, the render function, props and state are passed to it, so you don't have to call this dot props and stuff. And also, what I really kind of find very interesting to me, I mean, it's the OCD part within me, always kind of had a problem with that in a way. So principle of least astonishment, HTML attributes like not having to type class name versus class. I mean, small stuff, but yeah, as I said, if you're OCD, kind of neat, feels good. So getting into the render part here, you can see that. So got the repo here and the stars. So that's the props and state, which get passed to it. And yeah, so that helps with easy destructuring, right? So you can actually state the props and state within the UI immediately. Also, you can see the class attribute here. Isn't it neat? I like it. I don't know, it's weird. All right, so here, same thing. That's where we call it, where we just like render that component we just defined. That's exactly like it is in React, right? So only for completion's sake, kind of like also talking about server-side rendering. I mean, it's a thing still, right? I mean, universal apps and stuff. There is, if you can see it down here, small Express example where we render that my app component with Preact's own render to stream. If you don't like that, you can also use React DOM server like before with the compatibility layer, which I'm going to get to now. We've got this like ecosystem compatible layer with Preact compat, where you can pull in all the React packages and libraries you like. They're all compatible if you use Preact compat with Preact. So another design pillar is kind of like size again, getting back to the size. Not pulling up the kilobytes again like the real size. I thought it might be interesting to look at it from the introspection point of view. Like, okay, I want to look into what's going on there. So just like sorted the whole source directory. And you can see it's like 1,148 lines total. It's kind of doable, right? I mean, you can read through that if you want to. The biggest part, the bulk of it is like in the virtual DOM, like the diff. You can see like the diff implementation and yeah, components and stuff. So it's kind of neat, I think, to see that it's not huge also from that perspective, even like talking about zipping up and stuff, you can read through that. Then speed. That's a huge selling point, I think, as well. It has better performance than React in terms of the virtual DOM because of its kind of more simple, predictable diff implementation. I don't know too much about the details where it's going into, but that's essentially one part of that. Like it's a different diff implementation, and also from the approach, just like from the diffing approach itself. React diffs against the previous virtual DOM tree, whereas Preact diffs against the DOM directly. So it's a, if it was like less abstraction, so less code with that, and also obvious a performance win, which is really nice. I think that's one of the major selling points, at least for me. And there's a bunch of other extra performance features, like customizable update batching, async rendering, DOM recycling, and optimized event handling with linked state. So, unfortunately, I can't talk too much about that, but if you want to optimize, you can go further than that. But out of the box, you will get the tweaked virtual DOM implementation. So that's that part. And talking about modularity, pulling them enough, so it's not super focus was not super on modularity. I mean, it's like a package, right? It's a framework in a way still, because React is, right? So, but still, if you look at it, that's just straight from the GitHub page. On the top, you can see Preact Compat as the first. But it's a living community, and most importantly, you can hook into Preact itself. So, what's missing? Coming back to the trade-offs, right? So in a way, prop type validation. So that's something we would like to have, right? So, but not everyone uses them. So from Preact from Preact itself, it doesn't. They're not part of Preact's core, but with Preact Compat, you can pull that in again, and you're good. Synthetic events. It's the whole event system in a way is just mostly it's an implementation detail, right? So it works more kind of like the whole of Preact is very browser aware, just like it knows it doesn't try to. It's less abstracted in a way, just like it tries to take what is there. If it's the DOM on the one hand, or the browser's event system on the other hand. So yeah, as I said, leveraging the browser event system here, which of course leads us to React Native support. That's missing, but again, that's like the Safari use case before, right? Like on the Zepto side, something's got to give, and in that way, that's the React Native support. It's web only. So other trade-offs in general is, as I said, coming back, it's the abstraction part. That's essentially what the biggest trade-off is here. So in a way, it's kind of bounded to the web thing, to the browser and stuff. So if you do web applications, that might not be such a problem, right? So, but if you want to do React Native and other stuff, could be. But Preact is very explicit on purpose, and that has its pros and cons. And essentially, that's it. So what's next? In that same vein, yeah, we've got lots of stuff going on in JavaScript always, right? So last thing was svelte or something, right? Just looked at it quickly. So, but in a way, you see it's their major selling point, same thing, right? The web's obesity crisis solved. So that's one of their selling points. For us, it's not really interesting because it doesn't have a React API, right? So probably not very interesting to it. Also, in a weird way, I don't know, I haven't had the time too much to look into it, but it reintroduces two-way binding. I don't know, it seems weird to me, but yeah, I definitely need to read more up on that. Probably will be going more into my closure script aspirations instead, but whatever. So svelte is something new coming up. But so in a way, it's also in the same vein like the micro frameworks thing. So what else? Micro? I don't know. Are we talking micro here? What? Pardon? maybe they're starting to be pretty cool actually. It's just like since the Ballmer guy is gone. Anyway, so so micro bundling maybe. Who knows? I don't know. That could work.
Roll up.
Pardon?
Roll up.
Roll up. Same. Yeah. Cool. That would be an example for that. My own example, I would have pointed to something like the Google Closure compiler, for example, that goes way beyond that, right? So it's not only about bundling, it's also about the whole build setup and stuff, and it's certainly inspired by my fanboyism for Closure and Closure script. But so there, just recently, Roman just open sourced his Closure compiler handbook. Could be interesting for some aspirations if somebody is into micro bundling for alternatives for Webpack or something. Maybe there's other people who could be happy with that. I don't know, but that could be something down the horizon. So yeah, so that's essentially it. That's essentially what I wanted to talk about. That's the nice thing about Preact. It's not actually. It's just like, yeah, we know React, right? So I would encourage you to try it. And yeah, maybe it's the sweet spot for one of those projects where you, until now, were not allowed to pull in React and say like, okay, cool, got my small island solution in there, and it will work with that. So could be nice. It's also under heavy development. Talking about the trade-offs, I just wanted to add, like, I mean, React is still also under heavy development, and for now, I think feature-wise, is still Preact really makes sense, but it could be, I don't know, maybe React team is adding some new killer features we all need to, but just saying like that, it's you have to observe essentially. But same thing with Septo and jQuery. I mean, at the point you had the jQuery mobile and stuff, but still, in certain cases, Septo could have made sense. So thank you. Yeah, so if you're on Twitter, I encourage you to go on Twitter. In crazy JavaScript country, you should actually be on Twitter every day. So that's the guy who's doing the Preact thing, develop it. It's also the same account as the GitHub repo, and that's Roman. So originally my talk was about Closure on kind of like Closure script with Preact. Turned out that was too much and blew my stack. So there will be something like that coming up. Anyways, like Roman is really great doing lots of JavaScript stuff, but also Closure script stuff. And he's going heavily into the Closure compiler. There's even a Webpack Closure plugin. Anyways, it's just like a pick from my side as well. Just like have a look at it. You can follow those two guys immediately. I think there's no loss there. So thanks. Questions? Yeah. Please.
Have you looked into Inferno?
Not yet, no.
Because I think it's even more
cool.
Preact. So the benefit of Preact is that there is a compat mode.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using Webpack, you basically can create an alias. So you can develop in React using all the benefits like prop types and all the heavy stuff. And then in production mode, you can just use the alias in Webpack config, like React is equals Preact compat. And essentially just switch it in production to the 3 kilobyte alternative. But anyway, it might not work, so I tried it once. It didn't.
But it's Inferno, right?
Inferno is a different library, so it has a different API, but it's, from what I heard, it's blazingly fast. So it's even faster as svelte, or how the thing.
The two-way binding thing, this weird thing. Yeah. Anyways, no.
But the thing,
I have to look into it.
Even Richard Harris, who is behind the svetle, and Rollup, by the way, so it's the same guy.
Same guy. Okay.
Yeah. So he tweeted like, "Wow, even Inferno is faster as my vanilla GS library," because the guy who does Inferno is like
he's on fire. Yeah. Awesome. It's also, by the way, Inferno. I think that's a campaign. I think.
Interesting remark by Sebastian Markberg, who's the leader of the React team, who mentioned like, if I would do React now again, I would build Inferno.
Wow.
I think it has a major feature is that it has stateless functions and you can hook into the lifecycle, which is crazy.
Okay.
Which means you can just write functions now.
Nice.
No classes and still optimize, which you can't do in React.
So, and the second question would be, what do you think, or what, like, because there is the upcoming release of React.
Yeah.
I hope like soon, React Fiber.
Yeah. Right.
Which basically should solve. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. Right. I'm thinking out loud right now because it only solves the performance, but not the bundle size issue. So yeah. Forget
But
about
still, yeah. No, I mean that's why I wanted to say like before this.
Yeah.
Everything is
But
moving.
I totally agree because bundle size is pretty much the issue, especially if you're targeting mobile.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Max. Still want this extracted.
Also during development it's a huge headache because if you watch and you have to every time bundle and change.
Yeah, you can solve this issue.
Yeah.
You can dance around and do stuff with that fact nobody wants to do.
Nobody wants to. Yeah.
And solve this kind of. But yeah, it's much faster to
Like
read.
if it's this big, you don't have to solve it.
It's true.
Did you look into the synthetic event system?
No, I didn't. As I said, for me it's an implementation detail.
I have some insights, not myself, but I'm doing some work for Plex right now, and Plex is a media server.
Ah, yeah, right. I heard about
player.
that one.
And they basically run on any TV, and TVs are really slow, so they are even slower as Android 2 point something, which was slow. So like slowest from slower.
Okay. Okay. I can hear your frustration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, like what we're doing right now is they hooked up into the synthetic event system, so it will not be possible just to go to Preact compat mode
Right.
and do something.
No. That's as I said, like that. If you want to hook into that,
Because it's not possible for them. It's just not possible to use. There's no reliable event system between all of these diverse browsers, TV devices using. So they need something like abstracted, and they rely on this heavily. So don't forget about these use cases.
Yeah.
So even if you develop for mobile thing, different browsers like on Android, but you probably get some, I don't know, hundreds of different versions from the same browser if you get a few phones. So also where I wouldn't rely on browser event system. So I think this idea is kind of nice, but if you're targeting something like diverse platforms, you should be looking to synthetic events.
all right?
And also this thing with the DOM.
Yeah.
For the whole idea of the speed was that you don't have to query the DOM, but if you differ it, you have to query it, right? So you have some performance penalties, I guess. You said in the presentation
Yeah.
that
No.
having a virtual DOM is just differing with the DOM.
It tries to be as explicit as possible, so it doesn't have this whole layer where it maybe isn't essential. So it's just like it's very optimized. It's very performance optimized. So in a way, it has a virtual DOM as well, but it just like tries to go bare browser as quickly as possible, as far as I understood. But as the size of the library said, I really want to look into it in the end. I mean, I would like to know how that works. So, and you could do that.
So about the DOM diffing, I think what is really slow is changing the DOM, manipulating the DOM.
Not really.
Maybe not only reading or diffing, because this is really the point where the browser has to recalculate a lot of things.
No, you also invalidate the cache security, and that's, it's not true. So even if you read from DOM like multiple times, you will get some performance downgrade. Because each time you read from DOM, you trash you need to recalculate the stuff at least.
Yeah, when you're doing guess.
I'm not sure if it's if you do multiple reads, if it will be the cached result. I'm not sure about it. It probably depends on the project. So like there's libraries like DOM, like I can't remember the name.
Yeah, right.
It splits basically if you do like multiple reads and writes, it splits it into bunches and chunks, and does multiple reads in one chunk and then multiple writes. So this is basically the idea how to make things faster with jQuery or all these imperative frameworks. But I hope this will not be the case if, with Fiber, because it will just take care of it, or always. So the whole idea of having something like VDOM library behind is to forget about